All right, we will go ahead and get started. The chat place is there. I know we normally use Zoom, so y'all like to chat sometimes during our presentations, and you can use that chat the same way we do. We have our Zoom calls, and we'll go through and answer the questions. If somebody could just put into the chat if you're having any technical difficulties, as some of us have, certainly we're having technical difficulties a little bit on our side as well here. We'll try and assist you as best we can. This webinar is going to be recorded, and so if you can put your questions in chat, that just helps us, and we'll keep the microphones muted so we don't get a lot of background noise, and other people can watch this later if they were unable to get on today's call. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Hornby and Caitlin so that they can host this webinar on portal reports and all things portal.
Thanks, Candy. My name is Mark Hornby, Director of Operations for those that haven't met me. And I'm here with Caitlin Garrity, who's our membership manager. And Caitlin is actually going to take you through a lot of the updates for the portal and some of the tasks that we need to do to get ready for the new affiliation year. So Caitlin, do you want to share your screen?
All right, can everyone see my screen? It should be sharing already. Hopefully we can see it. All right, so
I don't see it right now on my end.
Sandy, are you able to see it?
What I see right now is just the information about the webinar. So no.
Give it a second. I just switched it, I think. So, Caitlin, try to open it back up. There you go.
There you are. Yeah. Perfect.
All right, so we're able to see my screen now?
Don't forget to hit yes, and don't forget to hit record. Oh, good, you got it. Okay, perfect. All right, let's go.
All right, so we are good to go, I think. All right. All right. So I am just going to go through a couple of the updates that we've done throughout the year, go over the portal reports, and as well as go over a demonstration for the student portal and just affiliation in general. All right, so this year you're going to see 3 new reports. You're going to see the state transfer queue report, the questionnaire report, as well as the alumni list report. The state transfer queue report, this is going to be a new feature that we added to the system this year. And it's just going to provide you with the information for students who have been transferred from one chapter to another. So it's going to provide you with all of the information for their school, chapter ID, and information like that. The questionnaire report is going to provide you with questions that are set up by the state and then the answers, as well as the advisor contact information. And we'll dive deeper into this a little bit later when we start to go over the updates that we made in the system that will make a little bit more sense. And then lastly, the new report that we have is the alumni list report. So this is going to provide you with the alumni members that are affiliated at the national level, and it's going to provide you with all of those that are in your state. And it's also going to have the advisor's contact information on it. I know this can get a little bit confusing because every time an advisor pays advisor dues, they are also becoming an ANA member, so they're going to have their information on there as well. So you'll have both of those groups on there. Next, we have the existing reports. So these reports are going to remain the same. We did not make any changes to these reports, so they're going to be the same as they have been in previous years. So this is just a description of each report and what information that each report has on it. So the most popular report tends to be the chapter member information report, just because it's a very large report, so it has almost all of the information you could need on it. So it's going to provide you with the most information, and then you can change it to delete some of the columns so that you can make it a little bit smaller and a little bit more manageable. So how to download reports. First, you're just going to go to log in as the state advisor, click on the reports tab, and then you're going to see all of these reports that you can download. Once you click on one of the reports, it'll give you the option to download it as a PDF or as a CSV. Most often, I recommend downloading it as a CSV, as that's going to be the easiest to manipulate the data if you're trying to do something with that report. You'll see the three new reports at the bottom: state transfer queue, questionnaires, and alumni list. So now we're going to go into the updates for the chapter advisors. So you're going to see 6 main updates for chapter advisors. There have been a couple other updates throughout the system, but they're pretty minor and they're not really going to affect anything, just you'll see very tiny differences. But the 6 main changes are right here. So first, you're going to see when the advisor first logs in, they're going to be asked another question to see if they were a former member. The chapter advisors will have to answer a questionnaire set up by the state if the state decides to set that up before they can proceed into starting with affiliation. They'll have the opportunity to click on chapter history, which will provide them with some history within their chapters, such as affiliation, competitive events, and things of that nature. Then we have the transfer, a way to transfer students using Add Existing Member button. We are actually allowing substitutions this year for affiliation, but the affiliation substitutions are only allowed through November 1st, and they will require both state and national approval. And then lastly, we have another way to transfer members that will be initiated by the students. And this one, I will show you how this works, but this one is actually still a work in progress. So this one, when we open on August 1st, may not be visible, or all parts of it may not be visible, as we're still trying to work through some of those challenges. So now we're just going to go in and kind of just show you what these new updates look like. So when an advisor first logs in, this is the landing page that they come to. And you're going to see the new question here asking if they were a former member. I do want to point out that if you're helping a chapter advisor, you yourself as the state advisor or state staff will not see these questions, and neither will we at the national level. You have to be logged in as the chapter advisor in order to see these 2 questions right here, because these are tied to each advisor's profile. So each advisor answers these questions. Next, we have the questionnaire feature that we added, and this is optional, 100% optional. So if the state does not want to do anything, they do not have to. But when the advisor, after they get through the landing page that we just went over, if your state does set up a questionnaire, it'll pull up this information right here, the name of the questionnaire, and this little notebook symbol. They'll have to click on this notebook symbol and it'll bring up this pop-up with the questions. So if the questions are required, they'll have to answer and then click save before they can proceed to the affiliation process.
And they'll only do that the first time that the questionnaire is available. So if they answer it once, they don't have to go through and answer it every single time they log into their chapter portal. And also, you can institute or implement a questionnaire at any time throughout the year. It doesn't just need to be in the beginning of the affiliation period. And then any one any chapter advisor entering their chapter portal at that point in time will then have to do the questionnaire.
All right. All right, so then we have the chapter history tab, and this is going to be the tab that they can click on just to get their chapter history with affiliation information, conference information, competitive event information. And they have the opportunity to print these in a transcript format. And then they also have the option to print their chapter service report, and that's going to be information that students enter on their end. Say they volunteered at something, it's going to show up here in this report, and I'll show you a little bit more about that when we get into the student portal. And so if you click on each of these sections, it will break it down by year for affiliation, conferences, competitive events, and so forth. On this page, we have the Add Existing Member button. So once an advisor clicks on this button, this screen right here will pop up. They'll enter the membership ID number, click Look Up. It'll bring up the student's information, and then they would click Transfer if they wanted to transfer that student into their chapter. Something important to note about this is if the student is already on an invoice, you won't be able to transfer him or her. They can't be on an invoice yet to transfer them using this button. Next, we have the substitution button. So you can click on the substitution button. It's going to bring up this next new substitution request option. So you'll select the student that you're substituting for. So let's just say an advisor accidentally submitted a duplicate member but has a different member that they want in place of that duplicate. They would select that duplicate member, and then they would enter the student's information on the members tab, and then it will show up here as an option to select that student to substitute. And one important thing about this is they do need to confirm consent before the student will show up in this new student option. They'll save this request. And like I mentioned earlier, this does need to be approved by both state and national. So I did fill out 2 requests just to show you what it looks like. So if it was approved, it would show the date and the time for when it was approved. But if it was pending at the state level or the national level, it would display that there for the advisor. Next, we have the transfer, student-initiated transfer, and this is the one that I mentioned earlier that is still a bit of a work in progress as we're still working through some challenges. But how it works is the advisor will now have a tab that says Requests, and they may not see this on their general screen, so if they're zoomed in or if their browser is small or something, so there'll be a little drop-down arrow, and then they'll select Requests, and then it'll bring up this, what it looks like here with the student's name and approve or deny. So they would either hit approve or deny, and then it would hypothetically invoice the student appropriately, whether they were affiliated or not, so that they're not paying dues twice. So I'll go over some updates for the state advisors. 3 main updates for state advisors. First, you're going to see that you're going to need to approve or deny those substitution requests. Next, you'll have the option to add that state questionnaire. And lastly, when you change state rates, it's going to provide you with a warning message and a notification to state staff or state users, as well as nationals. So I'll show you what that looks like. So to approve a substitution request, they'll just go to the Request tab, and it's going to be very similar to approving a chapter request or name change request. So you'll click on Substitution Request, and then you'll either click on approve or deny. After it goes to you, it'll come to us at National, and we'll have to do the same thing. Next, we have adding questionnaires. So you will click on the Questionnaires tab on the far right. Like I mentioned earlier, if your browser is a bit small or you're zoomed in a bit, there might be an arrow, and then you'll click on Questionnaires. Once you do that, you're going to have this option to add a new questionnaire. Once you click on that, it's going to bring up this pop-up, and you'll type in the name of your survey, and then you'll type in instructions for filling out your survey, and you'll click Save. After you do that, it's going to bring up your survey, and it's going to allow you to add questions to your survey. So you'll click on the notebook symbol, and then it'll allow you to enter the text and answers for those answer options for those questions. So you'll put the question here, and then I suggest retyping the question here, as this is going to be the header for your report that you can now download that I mentioned earlier, the questionnaire report. And then you have the option to make it required or not required. And then you'll have the option to select what type of question you want it to be. So for this instance, I did a drop down, but there's also like a text box option and things of that nature. And so if you do the drop down option, you'll have to enter your options, and then they will be separated by semicolon. And then you'll click Save. Next, we have the state rate confirmation. So if you go into your state rates during the middle of the year or any point in the year, and you decide you want to expire a rate and add a new one, it's going to come up with this pop-up message just asking you if that's actually what you want to do, just to make sure you're sure about it before you do it. If not, you'll close. If so, you'll hit confirm. If you hit confirm, it's going to send an email to us at National, as well as any state user that you put this as an option for. So you have the option to give this right to somebody, to a state user, and if you select that right for them, then they would receive this email as well, notifying them of the change. All right, so now we'll go ahead and get started in the Student Portal demonstration, and then I'll go to the Affiliation Portal demonstration as an advisor, and then I'll go into the Affiliation Portal just information as the state advisor and those reports and everything. All right, so it's going to pull up our test site. So this is where we test all of the features that we've added. And I'm going to log in as the national president. So this will look very similar to the affiliation system. It has the same general look. They'll enter their username, which is their membership ID, and then their password, and hit login. And then it's going to bring them to this home page. Here you'll see their membership ID, their affiliation status, their chapter advisors information, and their state advisors information. On the edit information tab, there'll be edit any of their personal information, such as their email, cell phone, gender, demographic, and then we also want them to reset their password. So they'll type their new password here, and then select their areas of interest, and they can also enter in their address if they'd like, and then click Save to save that information. Once they do that, whatever password they entered here is going to be the password that they use to log into the system. Next, we have the My Journey tab. So on this tab, you're going to see My Journey, My Service, and then some competitive event affiliation information. So the My Journey feature is actually something that we can turn on and off for specific students. So for this demonstration, I went ahead and turned it on for her. And with this being turned on, they have the option to enter in different events or various things about their journey. So here I entered in just the date of a regional conference, and you could fill out a bit of information about it and then click Save, and that would save that information here. Next, you have the My Service section. So this is where, like, if you are volunteering in the community or something and you want to keep track of your service hours that you've done for the year, you could add it to your service history. You fill out the date, the event name, the number of hours you volunteered for, and then some details about it, and you'd click Save, and it would show up right here like it does for this example. Next, you have the competitive event information. So you'll see the various competitive events that she competed in. Lastly, you have the affiliation information. So the years that she's been affiliated with this membership ID. So if she was affiliated under a different membership ID previously, it's not going to connect to her current membership ID. Next, we have program awards. So the students will be able to apply for your program awards here. Next, we have surveys, and I know this has been a very exciting new addition that several people are looking forward to. They have the option to complete and view their project summary form here. Next, we have resources. So at the national level, we can put resources here that are applicable to the students, and they can access those through their student portal. Next, we have transfers. So this is the one that I mentioned earlier that is still a work in progress. So if we did need to transfer her, they would select the state, the city in which the chapter is located, and then we'd select the chapter. And then we'd click Save, and then that would make the transfer go to the chapter advisor to either approve or deny. But this one is the one that's still a work in progress. Next, we have invoices. So in the eStore, we don't have anything in there right now, but if they were to purchase something in the eStore, they would have the option to view their invoice here. Next, we have FAQs. So if we have any FAQs about the meeting or competitive events or something that we needed to get out there, we could put it here and then just log out. So that is the general gist of the student portal. So now I'll go ahead and go to
Caitlin, we have some questions in there we kind of want to answer while we're still in the student portal. One of the questions, will advisors have the ability to see information that students add to their journey? And the answer to that is yes. The chapter advisors will also have a report that accumulates everything from my journey to put on their chapter transcripts as well, and they'll be able to print that out to give that to any administrators or anyone that they may want to share that information with. Additionally, there's a couple questions regarding how students will get their membership ID and their passwords. So on 8/1, we're going to send out an automated email out to all the members in the system that will give them their password, email, and the link to the FCCLA portal. And the reason we wanted to do this now rather than later on is kind of going back to the transfer module that Caitlin was just demonstrating. So if students, especially 8th graders that are going into a high school, or middle schoolers that are going to high school, they can transfer themselves into the new chapter and not have to worry about a duplicate chapter membership ID getting created for them, so they can retain their history. Because if they're waiting for their first advisor to contact them and give them their old information, because they wouldn't know that offhand, the new advisor may have already created an ID for them, so that then they'll have 2 IDs and lose that connection. So those will be going out. And then chapter advisors also have the ability to resend the welcome email. So if they misspelled the email, they put an B instead of a C in their name, they can fix that and then resend the email to that student right through the chapter portal.
Great. All right, so I will go ahead and go into the affiliation demonstration and go over the reports. So first I'll go in as a chapter advisor for the affiliation process. All right, so when the advisor first logs in, they're going to come to this landing page as always, and they're going to have to update any information here, any principal information or their county. This year we did add a little bubble to help them answer this question correctly. We added a couple bubbles here just to further explain this to them. They'll select their education and training background, and then this is the new question: were you a former FCCLA, FHA, HERO member? And then they'll confirm. Now this is the new questionnaire section, so they'll have to click on this notebook symbol, answer the questions, and then click save. And now it's going to take them to the normal affiliation process. So they'll first graduate. So these are the students that were in 12th grade last year and now have moved out of the school. So they would select these students, graduation completed. Then they'll go ahead and edit the chapter members. So here's where they can update any information for the students, although the students do have some opportunity to update some of this themselves as well. And this is where they can delete any student they need to. So here you'll see this used to say drop, it'll now say delete. If you need to delete somebody, you'll select the student, hit delete selected student, and confirm. They can use the bulk grade roll forward button to advance each student's grade level. And then once you're done editing all of the information, you can select bulk edit complete. So next, they would typically have to confirm consent before they can proceed with submitting for affiliation. This is just a recent little error that we came across just about an hour or two ago, but they will still have to confirm consent this school year before they can submit affiliation. They have the opportunity to check for duplicate members, and they can remove a duplicate member if needed. And then they can select the students that they would like to put on an invoice. A couple of updates you'll see here. The export PO is going to be just a little bit updated. You'll see a little bit more text, the logo, and just provide them with a little bit more information on that. You also see that the advisor's name for who you're submitting for is going to be included on the preview so that they can make sure that they're submitting for the correct advisors and they don't have a previous advisor still listed on there. And then you'll see this button. It used to say confirm and now says create invoice, just to make it clear to them that by confirming this message, they are creating an invoice. So now I'll go ahead and go over the add existing member option. So once you click on that button, you'll enter the membership ID number. And then select look up. And it's going to bring up this student's information, slogans information, and then you can select transfer, and it will transfer this student. So that is relatively simple. Just the only thing you need to remember about that is if they are already on an invoice, they cannot be transferred using that process. Next, we'll go over the substitution. So they'll click the substitution button. And I did not mean to submit for this person, but I meant to submit for this person. So I would save this request. And then, like I mentioned earlier, this does require approval from the state and national. So after it has been approved, that change would be made. But at this point, it's still pending at the state level and still pending at the national level. Next, I'll show you the transfer request. And so this is the feature that I mentioned earlier that's still a work in progress. But as you can see on my screen, just the way I have it set up right now, it's in this little arrow, click on request. And then the student's information would appear here if they are requesting to be transferred into your chapter. And then you would either approve or deny this request here. Next, I'll go over chapter history. So here you'll see the information about affiliation, conferences, competitive events, program awards, all of this information broken down by year. You have the option to print this transcript. And I'll break it down by year for you. You also have the option to print your chapter service. You would click on this, select PDF or CSV, and then it would provide you with the information for those who have entered it into the student portal. This one's not going to have any information on it because the students in this chapter, still has information on it. But the students in this chapter, how you can see their service hours and their name, and then it will total the amount of hours for each student. All right, and I think that covers it for just the basic chapter affiliation process. But I'll also go over a couple of the state changes that we mentioned earlier. All right, so first I'll go over the reports. So like I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to download any reports, you'll click on this black reports button. Then it's going to bring up all of the reports. You'll see these 3 new reports down here. We'll go ahead and download the questionnaire one so that you can see what it looks like. You'll select the questionnaire, and then you'll select CSV. And it's going to provide you with a little bit of contact information for the advisor, and then the answers to the questions in each of these columns. I'll also show you the chapter information report, just because this is a very common report for states. A lot of states end up using this. It gives you a lot of information, and it shows you how many are affiliated and whether they affiliated this year, whether they affiliated last year or not. So this is a really good resource for you. All right, so next I'll go over the 3 updates that we talked about earlier that affect you as state staff or a state advisor. First, you have requests for substitution. So you'll go to the request tab, you'll select substitution request, and then you can either approve or deny the request. So if you wanted to approve it, you would just click approve, and then that would send it to us at National, and we could either approve or deny that request. Next, I'll go over the warning message that you'll receive when editing rates. So if you've edited a rate, you wanted to change the expiration of the rate, and you clicked save, it's going to give you this confirmation message asking if this is actually what you want to do. If not, you would select close. If you did select confirm, you'll get that email like we discussed earlier with the information about what exactly changed in those state rates and who changed that information. And lastly, we'll go over the questionnaires. As you guys could see, I already had a questionnaire set up in there, so you'll see that questionnaire right here. But if I wanted to add a different questionnaire, I would just select on Add New Questionnaire. I'll type the name of the survey, the instructions, and click Save. And then to add questions to my survey, I would click on this little notebook symbol. I click on Add New Question. And I would type the question here. I would just repeat this. Select whether I want this required or not, and then the answer type that I would like. So a text box, text area, checkbox, or drop down. If you do a drop down, you do need to put a semicolon to between your answers. And then you click Save. All right. I think that wraps up the affiliation updates. Are there any questions for myself or my team?
I've been answering some of the questions as they've been popping up in the question box, but I'll just go ahead and kind of read out some of the questions here for everyone, if everyone's not being able to see that, because I know my box is kind of small there. So if the questionnaire is in the middle of the year, will it show up the first time they log in after it's been added? Yes, it will. So if you add it January 1st, the first time an advisor logs in January, they will then see that questionnaire at that point in time.
The only
Will there
thing
be an oh, go ahead, Caitlin.
The only thing to note about that, if you did go in and you change the question, it is going to erase the data for those that have already answered the questions.
So, but if you create a brand new one, it won't affect anything there. The next one, will there be an updated affiliation tutorial available soon to send to the chapter advisors? Yes, we are currently working on it, and it should be ready at the end of this week, early next week for everyone to use. If the students already updated in their portal, updated information in their portal, will this be highlighted for us to review? This will not be highlighted on the edit or the bulk roll forward tab where you can edit all their information. The system automatically brings everyone's information regardless if they've already been in the system at that point in time. Is the student demographic information available on the membership report? I just checked and it's not currently there, but we can get that added for you. So I will make that request shortly after this meeting to try to get that in, to get that column added within the next day or so. What will be the reason for using substitution request? We get a lot of various different requests. A lot of times the advisor affiliates her a number of students in the beginning of the year, but then some of the students don't end up paying via 11-1. So, but then another student who does pay wants to be swapped in. So that's why we're allowing that to happen up to 11-1. But after November 1st, like Caitlin mentioned before, that option will go away and they will no longer be able to substitute at that after that point in time. There is a question about an advisor deleting a student's portal and then them no longer gaining access to that portal. Advisors would, when they remove a student from their chapter, that's dropping them, so it's not deleting them from the system. So they're still in the system and in the back end, and they would still have access to their portal at that point in time. Then the student would then be able to join another chapter if that's the case, or the student will be able to, in the following years, join another chapter because their membership ID would be active as well. And I think last one. So with the transcripts, so you show the report for service hours, but what about the things they added in monitoring section instead? That will be on their actual consolidated transcript. They're not the service. The service report is a separate report that just shows their service hours. Yes, this will be available afterwards to listen to, and we will have this posted shortly after this meeting. I think I got through everything. Are there any other questions?
This is Sandy. We'll put the link in the SAU. Hopefully we'll have it by tomorrow and get that out in the SAU, and then it will also be in the resource tab on the portal for you as well to refer to. We did have some state advisors who couldn't make the call, and they've asked for that too. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us for this portal updates and reports information. Feel free to email us if you do have any other questions. We're happy to walk you through any of the processes or answer any of your questions via email. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin and Mark, for this. We're really excited about the new addition for the single student sign-on and the questionnaire and those different pieces. So hopefully this is helpful, but as you get in there and start playing with it, you might have some ideas for us as well to look at in that. It's been a big lift. It's taken us a little bit longer than we had hoped to get single student sign-on, but it's there. So we're very happy to have that. And we're getting short on time, but that was important information for us to share. We'll go back to our Zoom meeting platform next Tuesday, and we'll be talking a lot then about fall conferences and what that looks like in your states and as we're launching the beginning of school. So we're excited to hear what's going on in your world and how we can best support you. I do want to share with you that we have a new state advisor on the call today. Katie Lewis is our new North Carolina state advisor. So she's joined us for the first state advisor call today, and we're happy to have her. And for those of you who are new state advisors, we will be working on a virtual new state advisor onboarding. We normally would bring you in, but due to COVID, we're not doing any travel. So we're working on getting that for September for the new state advisors as well in that. So hope you all stay well, stay healthy, and look forward to that SAU tomorrow for the link for this webinar. And let us know if you have any questions. So thank you so much for your time today. And thanks again, Mark and Caitlin. We appreciate this information. Have a great day, everyone.